Okay, so this is part 2 of 3.3 Quack, and this is on the back side of your handout, and we're going to go through the rules for using semicolons, hyphens, and dashes. Okay, so first we're going to talk about the semicolon. So the semicolon, I want you to think of as a softer period. So think of it actually as like a rolling stop sign. You come up to the stop sign and you like kind of pause, but not really, which is something you don't want to do in your driver's test, but you might actually do in real life. Hopefully not though. So the semicolons aren't really the attention seekers that periods are. They don't completely end the relationship, they just make you consider ending the relationship. So in a sentence with a period, obviously when you come to the end of the sentence, there's a complete stop, and then that relationship with that sentence is over, you move on to the second sentence, and there's a complete break there. But with a semicolon, it's going to join two very closely related sentences so that the sentence kind of ends. Think about ending it, the thought concludes, but then it follows up with another full sentence that is related in thought. Okay, so some rules for using semicolons. First, a semicolon is used to join two independent clauses not joined with a conjunction. So in other words, each of the clauses could stand alone as a separate sentence. So our example over here in the right-hand column says 25 students started calculus, semicolon, only 7 remain. Okay, so each of those clauses, 25 students started calculus and only 7 remain, are full sentences. They could totally stand on their own, but because they're so closely related, instead of putting a period between them, which could sound a little choppy, you might use a semicolon, one of those more rolling stop signs. In rule number 2, a semicolon is used before a conjunctive adverb when the word connects two independent clauses in a compound sentence. A comma should follow the adverb in this case. Okay, so common conjunctive adverbs could be things like also, besides, for example, however, in addition, instead, meanwhile, then, and therefore. So our example over here on the right, I loved to eat cereal constantly, semicolon, however, comma, my diet suffered greatly because I didn't eat anything other than Smart Start. Okay, so you see that the semicolon here is used right before that conjunctive adverb, however, which is followed by a comma. This is very similar to Rule 1 because both of these clauses, both these sentences, I love to eat cereal constantly, and however, my diet suffered greatly because I didn't eat anything other than Smart Start, are both two separate sentences. They can stand alone. But in this case, we do have a conjunctive adverb here. Now, you could not do this with a normal conjunction like for, and, nor, but, or, yet, or so. It only works with these common conjunctive adverbs. In Rule 3, it says a semicolon is used to separate independent clauses that are long or contain commas. So here we have Elena, Eric, and Kim voted for her, semicolon, and Scott, Jason, and Sue voted for Vanessa. In the second example, I have postcards from Paris, comma, France, semicolon, Rome, comma, Italy, semicolon, London, comma, England, semicolon, and Miami, comma, Florida. Okay, in that second example, you see that the commas are separating the city from the country, whereas the semicolon is separating those destinations from each other in the list. It's used to make more clarity within that list. Same thing with the first example. You want to make it clear that the semicolon is separating those two separate lists so that it doesn't get confusing. Our second punctuation mark we're going to talk about is the hyphen. With a hyphen, I want you to think of it as a motorist assist vehicle. So it's coming to help you out. It helps make compound words, joins words and compound numbers, things like that. They help two or more items exist peacefully together. So the hyphen, you can kind of see up there at the top, is the shorter one. Okay, a dash is the one that's actually a little longer, and we're going to talk about that later. So some rules for our hyphens. A hyphen can be used to make a compound word, like mother-in-law or editor-in-chief. A hyphen can be used to join a capital letter to a noun or a participle. So notice the capitalization of the letter in those examples: t-shirt, V-shaped, and U-turn. Rule 3, the hyphen can be used to join the words in compound numbers from 21 to 99. So 53% of the students polled agreed that heavy D is too hard of a grader. In number 4, a hyphen is usually used to form new words beginning with the prefixes self, X, all, great, and half. It's also used to join any prefix to a proper noun, a proper adjective, or the official name of an office. Exceptions include selfless, selfish, and self-same. So some of the words you might make are half-eaten, ex-mayor, mid-May. You might also use midwinter, ex-boyfriend, things like that, creating a new word with one of those prefixes. Rule number 5 says that you'll use a hyphen with other prefixes or suffixes to avoid confusion or awkward spelling. Okay, so recover, if you were going to use that word, you might put a hyphen in it so that it doesn't confusing with the word recover that doesn't contain a hyphen. So recover might mean to get better from being sick, whereas recover with a hyphen could mean to recover the sofa. Shell-like is avoiding awkward spelling there. So if you use shell-like without a hyphen, it would have 3 L's in a row, which just looks weird. And same thing with refuse. So to fuse again, you would use that hyphen, whereas if you actually just said refuse, you would be turning something down. Rule number 6, use the hyphen to join 2 or more words that serve as a single thought adjective before a noun. So the example on the right, some say I am a money-hungry fool. Okay, money is a noun and hungry is an adjective, but when you put them together, you can create one adjective, money-hungry. Semicolon, I disagree with this statement, for I am just a music-loving girl who must work diligently to support my insatiable thirst for new tunes. So music-loving contains a hyphen as well. Rule number 7, hyphenate compounds that include well and ill when they precede the noun. Do not hyphenate if the expression carries a modifier. Okay, so you might say a well-known woman. So because it has well, you're going to use that hyphen before you get to the next adjective, known. But if you have a modifier in there, an additional adjective like very, you do not hyphenate it. Very well-known woman. Rule number 8, do not use a hyphen in a 2-word modifier if the first element is a comparative or superlative. Okay, so comparative and superlatives are words like good, better, best, upper, lower, highest, higher, things like that. The comparative is going to end in ER normally, and the superlative normally is going to end in EST. Okay, so you can look to the right, upper division courses, better paid workers, best liked films, higher income brackets. Because those modifiers are all 2 words, upper division, better paid, best liked, higher income, but because the first one is a comparative or a superlative, those words that end in ER or EST, you are not going to use a hyphen in those situations. Okay, and our last punctuation mark for this section is the dash. So the dash is the longer one, and on your keyboard, if you type 2 hyphens and then continue to type something else and hit the space bar, it will turn into a dash. With a dash, think of a neon light for a club. So the dash is flashy and it demands attention. So you want to use the dash sparingly. If you overuse it, it really loses its emphatic effect. Some rules for the dashes. Writers often place a component in a sentence and set that component off with commas. Sometimes, however, you might wish to place special emphasis on the component, but commas are really too weak to serve that purpose because we use them all the time. If this is the case, you may wish to use dashes for added emphasis. So in the example on the right, Linda Simpson, the president's most trusted economic advisor, will resign her office during today's press conference. Okay, you could easily replace those dashes with commas. However, if you're wanting to use more emphasis, you would go ahead and use that dash. Rule number 2, a dash is used to set up an introductory series from the clause that explains the series. So we have a list here: idiotic boyfriends, psychotic parents, hypnotic soulmates. Where would I be without them? So in that situation, that dash is used to set off that introductory series, that list, from what explains the series, which is where would I be without them. Rule number 3, a dash can be used to show interrupted or faltering speech in dialogue. So this would definitely be used in narrative writing. So, why hello, dear. Yes, I understand. No, I remember. Oh, I want to. Of course, I won't. It was nice to talk with you again, dear. Okay, so all those dashes are used to show kind of broken speech or interrupted dialogue, maybe one side of a conversation. Rule number 4, a dash can be used to emphasize a word, series, phrase, or clause. So you might say something like, he's the kind of man who picks his friends to pieces. Okay, so that dash is just used to set off that phrase at the end. And then the last rule, a dash may be used to show that words or letters are missing. It's too late, he's got me by the... Okay, so that dash is used to show the interruption, the trailing off of thought there at the end of the conversation. Okay, and that concludes our notes on semicolons, hyphens, and dashes. Hopefully you'll be able to go back and rewind to any examples or parts you may have missed and get these notes down on your handout. Thanks.